According to Jack Dorsey, hyperinflation is possible to happen. A month-to-month inflation rate of more than 50% is considered hyperinflation. This might lead to an annual price increase of 12.974%. For a currency to collapse, prices would have to climb 130 times a year. Dorsey plans to invest some of Square's money in the cryptocurrency Bitcoin. On the other hand, Cathie Wood was enraged by Dorsey's ominous forecast of inflationary overshoot. She vented on Twitter that even if the money supply expands, an increase in the inflation rate does not necessarily reflect a rise in the money supply. To discover more about how the financial market works and how it affects the global economy, subscribe to Dinero Association YouTube channel, and we will be posting videos frequently to ensure you don't miss a thing. Cathie Wood ignored Jack Dorsey's 13,000 hyperinflation prediction. Although Jack Dorsey, Cathie Wood, and Elon Musk usually are on the same page, this isn't the case at the moment. The CEOs have talked about the most critical economic issues, like what would happen if the government suddenly made trillions of dollars. How can we make sure that our money will be safe in the future? The world's financial system may be about to fall apart. There was a debate between Jack Dorsey, Cathie Wood, and Elon Musk about hyperinflation and the possibility of a market crash. Everyone knows that the Federal Reserve and Congress have made much money, but no one knows what will happen next. CEO of Twitter and Square Jack Dorsey says he knows what will happen. Hyperinflation will happen soon. Hyperinflation occurs when the monthly inflation rate is more than 50%. Which results in a 12.974% annual price increase. Rapid inflation would undoubtedly be a terrible thing to be in. Jack Dorsey attempted to predict a massive inflation. Prices would have to increase 130 times annually to drive any currency to its knees. Whether in post-1914 Germany, Venezuela in 2010, or Zimbabwe in the year 2000, hyperinflation almost always results in economic instability. Hyperinflation will fundamentally alter everything, Jack Dorsey recently stated. It is taking place at the time of this writing. It will occur in the United States first and then worldwide, Dorsey predicted. According to one individual who wrote to Jack, hyperinflation is the worst-case scenario for most currencies. This is not a dream, Jack Dorsey continued. I'm not sure it's favorable in the slightest. Consumer prices are now increasing at a pace of approximately 5% per year, which is negligible in comparison to hyperinflation, which would require a 13,000% annual increase. What then convinces Jack Dorsey of the impending hyperinflation? A well-known indicator is an increase in the volume of M2 money to previously unfathomable levels. M2 money is the quantity of cash, negotiable deposits, and easily convertible currencies in the money supply. The M2 money supply climbed from 15.4 billion in February 2020 to 20.9 billion in September 2021. This represents an unprecedented 35% increase in the money supply over 19 months. This rapid expansion of the money supply could trigger an inflationary spiral. How will it affect the consumers? Workers will want higher wages to compensate for growing consumer prices. Consumer prices would climb even further due to increased demand, resulting in another pay raise. Consumer prices increased as incomes increased. The circular flow model is so named because each change in one segment affects the others. Hyperinflation is possible if the inflationary cycle continues to spiral out of control. Jack Dorsey knows this does not seem right and has invested heavily in Bitcoin in this situation. His Twitter bio reflects this, which is entirely dedicated to Bitcoin. Dorsey also protects Square's balance sheet by devoting a portion of Square's cash reserve to Bitcoin. Despite Dorsey's statements, one investor disagrees. The investor in question is Cathie Wood. Cathie Wood responded to Dorsey's announcement on Twitter with a lengthy emotional diatribe about how Twitter works. Few central bankers deny that monetary policy influences inflation. They tend to disregard their part in generating those conditions and instead focus on the behavior of others, customers, producers, and investors whose decisions impact demand, supply, and pricing expectations. As central bankers correctly point out, poor market behavior, particularly irrational earned behavior, has led to numerous financial calamities. Such behavior increases cash scarcity, slows transactions, and contributes to deflation. Cathie Wood intervenes. She justified Dorsey's proposals. Cathie began by examining a standard investment error. He anticipated inflation would soar when the Fed initiated quantitative easing in 2008 and 2009. Rather than that, the annual rate of money exchange has slowed, relieving inflationary pressures. The pace has slowed. Cathie asserts that expanding the money supply does not always increase inflation. This is because people must spend money for prices to rise. If clients retain all of their funds, more funds will not result in inflation. Customers are not spending the money they receive since the speed of M2 money has slowed. This is the sum of all products and services purchased during a specified time. Money velocity is the rate at which money is spent over time. Inflation has long been a cause of anxiety for investors worldwide who believe it would erode company profitability and consequently investment returns. According to Goldman Sachs analysts, the most often used term in client interactions last week was stagflation. Additionally, because discussing inflation encourages additional inflation, a remark from Cathie Wood helped temper an overheated market. Wood has a sizable Reddit following and gained notoriety in 2020 after her fund ARK Innovation had a 150% return in a single year. Despite a 2% decline in 2021, the fund has received inflows of more than $5.7 billion this year. On one critical point, Wood and Dorsey concur. Wood is a prominent member of the crypto bull community, urging U.S. regulators to make Bitcoin investing more accessible to the general public. How would the 13,000% affect the rest of the populations? If you learned something today, click the like button, and we'll catch up with you in the future video. Stay tuned!